Hello and welcome. Today we're going to look at a VBA solution that I set up for one of my customer tables, and so just simplified. I'm going to have only two tables here to look at. But the problem that I had several customers, and each customer, well, not every customer, but there was a standard price, but for certain options that they would take, and each customer had a different value. Even though at first what I was doing, I had a default value for the largest value, but I wanted to simplify it so that I didn't make a mistake sometime in the month, because I don't remember the exact price of every one of my customers. And so I have a table here with my customer and how much their monthly payment is. And what I want to do is create a payment table, and the payment table would list how much they pay each month. Now I could just connect these tables together and do an entry that this customer made a payment, but sometimes I have to adjust the payment because maybe someone was not able to complete the entire service. Like, for example, giving classes each month. Now, I have students that pay a monthly amount, but sometimes they're not able to make all their classes. Sometimes they might want to make an agreement. This month I have to do a 2-week trip to Italy or something, and I cannot do 2 weeks. So I'll discount the 2 weeks. But this doesn't happen that much, but I need to be able to, when it does happen, I need to be able to change his payment. So I cannot do a query connecting the two tables and have a payment that automatically appears. So I have to have something that I can enter automatically, but I can also change it. And this is the solution that I came up with. So here, let's just look at the structure of these two tables. So basically it's a simple table, payment ID, and we have the customer ID to connect to the other customer table. So the primary key here is the payment ID. And then if we look at the customer table, just look at the structure here. We have the customer ID, last name, first name, and the monthly payment here. So we have the customer ID, and we're going to connect those two tables together. And so if we look at the relationships, customer ID to the customer ID for payments. So that's it. Now, I already started to create a form, and what I did was I dropped down the forms here. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to start it over again. And so I deleted the forms, and I'm sorry, I created the form, and I went ahead and added this information here, just these, and let's take a look at it right now. So taking a look at these forms, I have these names here. So say, for example, if I add a customer ID, of course I don't have a drop down, but let's say for example, I add in somebody and their customer ID 789. So let's take a look in here, and we can bring up the person. Now I could do a drop down to add the customer ID, and it would make it a little bit easier so I know who I'm adding in there. And so go to the design view here, and I want to add a drop down. And so I want to provide the table from the customers. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to get the customer name, first name, and the payment amount, because I'm going to use that later. And I'm going to go here, and most people want last name first, order by last name and first name. And then we're going to go here and look at I'm going to keep the customer ID hidden because we don't really want that. Most people do not remember the customer ID. Maybe some do, but I know I don't. So now, which field do I want to store it in? So I want to store it in payment amount. No, I'm sorry. I want to store it customer ID because we're doing the customer ID of that table. Now I'm going to name this I'm just going to name it drop down pay and finish. So if we look at the table here, and just wanted to check one thing and look at the name. I want to make sure the name of the table got right. Is combo 9. So I'm going to change that to drop down pay. Because it makes it easier to remember when you put a name in there. So let's take a look at this now. And let's look at this in the regular view. So now I have a drop down. It makes it a little bit easier to add the person if I want to go down here and look. It looks like there's a lot of Browns and Davises. So we'll add Jason down here. Now, here's the amount that they're supposed to pay each month, and it comes down to 0. So I don't want this to happen. So what I'm going to do is go in here and design this, and I'm going to click on this table, drop down pay, and I'm going to go here to event. After update, click on the 3 dots, code builder, and we want to do code builder and not macro builder. Code builder. And then I'm here in this box. So what I want to do now is I want to type in just a few basic things in here to look at. So let's just look at one thing in our table here. So we have the drop down. Let's go ahead and look at this in the form view. So here it is. Now when I do a drop down, I see we have these names in here. So we have the last name, first name, and then the payment amount. So that's the third column over. And we already have the name of this. And we have the name of the form too. So we're going to go into the payments table as well. So, and the drop down pay is the name of this. And one other thing. So we want this to go into the payment amount here. So that's where we want the data to go into. So that's one of the first things that we're going to look at. So now we go back to the VBA, and I want to type in ME. I'll leave it lowercase because it's going to automatically update it, and that way I know that it updated it correctly. So, and that's when we want it to go in, payment amount. So I'm going to double click on that. And then I'm going to type in. Now we put the name of the field that the data is going into. And then I'm going to put in value. And I could either type it out or I'll just double click it. And now I want to hit equal. And what I'm going to do is type in ME again. And then I want to put in where it's going to come from, which is going to be the drop down pay that we just created. And then I'm going to put in the column. And remember that it was the third column over. So I'm going to put number 3. And now when I hit enter, those me's should go capital, and that tells me that I did it correctly. And it looks like we did it correctly. And that's it. Save it and get out of there. And the reason why I did that is you shouldn't see that. It only did that because I had done some other ones previously. So open the form. Let's go to the data sheet view. And so now if I did, I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to auto order the tab. So it's going to put this at the beginning. And let's save it. And also too, it's a good idea to close out of or at least close out of the form that you're using and open it back up. So let's go to the data sheet view. It'll be easier to see what we're doing here. So we have the first person here. Now, when I drop down on it, and actually I could go here and see the whole name. So now it's like, say for example, if it says Carter, Dakota. So let's say, for example, I go in here. Now, I'm just clicking on that. I could go in there and fix the data. Now, if I add new data in here, it will automatically fill in that field. But if I want to discount it too, I could also discount it or even add to it. Now, I could also put a formula in there. You know, say, for example, if inflation went up 10%, I could put a formula in there to account for inflation as well. So it would just be to multiply it. Now that would be, but I would probably update everybody before I do that. It wouldn't make sense, but there's different things that I could do with this, but I could still add the data and I can go back and change it if I wanted to. If I realized I made a mistake, I could just go back and fix it. Just click on it again. Well, maybe it won't. If I go down one and go back up, it should fix it. So no. So once you add it in there, it's permanent. But I can still manually do it. And the point is that I'm able. Okay, I guess that was the correct amount. But if I do change somebody, it'll automatically change. So every time I add a person, it's going to put in the correct amount. Let's go to some of these that are 0 and see if we can fix them. And so I'm able to go back and add the ones in here as well. So this is a handy tool, and it's pretty simple. I will put, well, the thing is, I could put the code below and I'll put it down there, but it's gonna depend on what you name each of the fields to. So you have to remember that, and the codes are going to be dependent on that. So we'll take one more look at the VBA code. And let's see here. Yep, I don't want to do that. I'm going to click on that first, and then we'll take a look at it. So looking at here, so ME dot the payment amount, which is the value that you want to go into that field. This is a field that's going to receive the data, the value. The value equals me dot drop down pay, what the column, the third column in the drop down. So that's what it's going to equal. And that's it. And it's a very simple code. If you make mistakes, it's not difficult. But one of the things that you could do if you're not sure about something, hit F1, and it'll tell you about it, like the me keyword. It's a declared variable. So I mean, it can tell you what it is. You know, you go back here again and you're not sure about something, you can hit F1, click on it, hit F1. And so now this is not found because this is something that I added in there, but let's go back here and we want to find out what, you know, for example, the column is combo box column. So it's telling you that that's the combo box column that you're doing. So if you're not sure about something, you can go in there and dig around for it and find out. So that's one of the keys to it. So if you have any questions, let me know. And this is something that I just wanted to add here to help people trying to add some information for the customer. And just a couple of other things that you can do with this is you can also name a customer. For example, I could do this drop down and I can do multiple ones. So if I wanted to have like an extra field with the customer's name or maybe some sort of drop down information that might apply to it, I could also add that in there too. There are multiple possibilities to it, but I just wanted to make this simple one. And before I close out, there was one example where I would do a customer ID or customer name for example, there was the name of the customer, the last name, first name, last name, and then they had the name that was going to go in the email when they would do a mail merge. So I guess sometimes, since I did this for the customer, I don't remember seeing any names that were different. And I had it set up so it would just automatically put the name of the first name of the customer in the email name, which is kind of like a nickname or something somewhat, but it would go into the email name. And that way it would automatically fill that field up and they wouldn't have to do that each time. And if they wanted to change it, like say, for example, if it was Susan and the person went by Susie, then they could change it to Susie and that was it. So there are a lot of possibilities for this. So I just want to give one example that I use a lot and that has helped me reduce my mistakes and save a lot of time. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, comment below, and let me know what you think.